All right, so moving on, there is the let's talk a little bit about the Wii U Game Boy Advance lineup that's coming out. So starting April 3rd, Wii U Virtual Console will have Game Boy Advance games available for download. We haven't seen them yet, but here is a listing of the games you'll be able to get on April 3rd. Advance Wars for $7.99, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga also for $7.99, and finally for the same price, Metroid Fusion. So day one, pretty cool. April 10th, you'll get Kirby and the Amazing Mirror and WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games, which is arguably one of my favorite games of all time.
Oh, it's one of the best games ever made.
You should totally check that out. Those are both $7, not $8. Just to throw that out there. Yeah, the pricing is variable of $1.
Nintendo's so weird.
It's weird.
Well, were those ROMs less heavy for the Pikmin to carry over or something? Like, what is that? That's so arbitrary, that pricing.
Yeah. And then on April 17th, you're going to be able to get F-Zero Maximum Velocity for $7 and Golden Sun for $8.
So are we to believe that these are going to start trickling out one or two a week, the same way they're doing NES games right now?
The first month looks that way, and I'm kind of happy about it.
Well, where's
April
Yoshi,
24th, Yoshi's Island,
cool.
Super Mario Advance 3. By the way, I hate that it has Super Mario Advance 3 on it, because technically that means it's Super Mario Advance 3, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, which is just absurd.
It's going to get even more confusing because they're going to put out Super Mario Advance 2 Super Mario World.
Super Mario World.
Super Mario World, which is already available on the Wii U on Super Nintendo as just Super Mario World.
Yeah.
For $8 or whatever it is. So I'm very confused about it.
Yeah, this lineup, though,
it's great.
Damn.
Yeah. Good damn.
That is
good
a really solid lineup.
Advance Wars, Fusion.
I like
Wario
the.
I love Fusion.
Solid.
I really like the Game Boy Advance era. I kind of like. I wasn't lapsed as a gamer then, but I sort of like took one foot out of the race a little bit. And then the Game Boy Advance came out, and I was like, wait a minute, they're making Super Nintendo games again.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we've had 10 years of like kind of good, kind of bad 3D games, but now a bunch of people in Japan are like, we're going to bring the Super Nintendo back, and you can bring it anywhere.
Yeah.
And they made an F-Zero and a Mario and a new Metroid and an old Metroid and blah, blah, blah. And Minish Cap, Zeldas and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff there. Especially if you've never played Advance Wars, it's one of the best games in its genre.
I think that's the best thing about the GBA generation of handhelds is it brought new Nintendo franchises to America.
Yeah.
Like the Advance Wars, the Fire Emblems. Like things like that. It gave us the chance to have these awesome experiences, and now I love them.
Yep.
That's true.
So, I would much rather just have these on my 3DS.
Yeah. You're not alone.
Totally.
So
Totally.
I was talking to Per, and he said, this is a great lineup, but he said, but I have all these games, and I could just pop them in my GBA and play them portable the way I was supposed to.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't see anything wrong with that argument because it's true. It's a shame. And it's interesting because my theory is, and this is probably not going to happen, but if you're re-releasing Super Mario World for GBA, maybe we're finally going to see this cross-buy thing happen in 2014.
That needs to happen, man.
Yeah,
we're in 2014 and it hasn't happened yet.
I know.
Mitch and I were just talking about he's playing Fez for Vita, and it's one of those, if you buy it for Vita, you get it for PS3.
And
PS4,
the save file transfers back and forth.
PS5.
Yeah,
you get it for your PS1.
I was talking about it at the top of the show, but I was playing it on PS4, and tomorrow I'm flying across the country, and I was like, I'll throw it on my Vita and play it on my Vita.
Exactly.
Like, that's great.
Yeah.
They need to get there, but I do think that that's a pretty good clue that game might end up there.
That it could be happening.
But then on the same page, like, why not just put the Super Nintendo version of Super Mario World on the 3DS?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Why is this so difficult?
Also,
is there something we don't understand?
How are these games going to look?
I'm not entirely sure too.
Gamepad,
there's a very small screenshot that came with the press release for these, and so it's hard to really tell. I can't wait till we see them up close.
Does it use up the full gamepad screen, or does it only?
There are trailers too, Jose.
Are there?
Yeah, there are trailers.
Okay,
and one thing I noticed is that they all look very dark. Like a lot of the whites all look like very like kind of more subdued grays, and like I'd like to see everything just sort of pop and look crisp. I know they didn't on the original Game Boy Advance.
Backlight.
Yeah. To answer your question though, it is 4:3, and because of the backlight or not having a backlight, some of these may look a little weird too, right?
Sure.
Because they were designed around not having a backlight, and now that they are on a whatever type of screen is inside of the
yes
Wii
and
U.
no. I remember
got the SP.
Yeah, but that took a while.
Yeah,
but the dev kits for the GBA were a lot brighter. That's why. Did you guys ever play Castlevania Circle of the Moon?
Yeah.
Who didn't? A launch game, man.
Exactly.
So
it was a launch game, and you could not see it. Like you had to play it underneath like
the
a
warm
lamp.
light.
Yeah, the warm light. Yeah, this stupid plastic squiggly thing that bent over your GBA. But when Konami worked on that game, I guess their dev kits were like all very well lit, and they could see it perfectly. It's a really beautiful game.
Yeah.
The sprites are incredible.
To me, the GBA games, never really didn't age well graphically.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Super Nintendo games, and it still has this look of like, oh, man, this looks awesome. GBA games look really fuzzy, and like kind of just like they got squished.
Yeah.
It's like an SNES game that got squished.
Yeah, because I think
like,
there were
I'm
some
worried
things
about
it couldn't do as well. Like, I mean, have you guys ever played Mario Kart Super Circuit?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably the most forgettable Mario Kart of the whole series. I mean, the Wii one you probably remember more just because you were angry at it, because of balance issues and stuff like that, and the steering wheel and stuff. But Mario Kart Super Circuit was like, oh, we're going back to flat Mario Kart levels again, and the coins are glued to the ground, and you're driving over them.
It was still fun.
It was fun. It was great to have a portable Mario Kart. It was awesome, especially like you could link cable, and the other cool thing they did was like you could have one copy and 4 people could play. They all had to be Toads or Shy Guys.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know.
Just to follow that point, because it ties into that whole 2D versus 3D debate. That's another game. That's another series, Mario Kart, where the minute it went 3D, no one wanted to go back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is it. The future. I love it."
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So hopefully this means there'll be more. There'll be a trickle every month, right? 2 or 3 every week. I hope so, because if not, it's going to be just like Nintendo has sort of fallen into the trap of, hey, here's a bunch now, and then it just kind of tapers off and disappears for a while. Also, none of these games are third party. And I really hope that they go after like Konami and say, hey, the Castlevania GBA games were amazing. Can we have those?
Is there any other games that you guys like immediately are like, oh man, I want this to come?
I mean, he just nailed it. Like, if the 3 Castlevania GBA games were there 3?
Yeah, there were Circle of the Moon, Harmony of Dissonance, and Aria of Sorrow.
Yeah, so if those 3
cool names,
I know they're awesome, and the art's so cool in them.
2 out of 3 Igavanias. But anyway, I hate that word. Anyway,
so like, I mean, there has to be. This is what I don't understand, and I'm sure there's a licensing thing here. Like, we're speculating here. Like, A, it's probably more difficult than we imagined to bring these games to 3DS, and B, I'm sure there's a huge nightmare of just being able to be like, hey, Konami, take your old trash out of the dumpster and give it to us. We're going to make you rich.
Yeah.
Because I would love to see all 3 of those Castlevania games come back, right? And I want to see Metroid Zero Mission.
Yeah.
Like, we have Fusion. I have Fusion on my 3DS already because I was an ambassador for buying the system a year early.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. It feels great.
So
I printed it.
You get it in the UN.
A few more recommendations, like Final Fantasies 4, 5, and 6 were really good on GBA.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else come to mind?
Pokemon Pinball.
Okay.
The game that will never come there, Boktai.
Boktai, the sun is in your hand. It needs a sun sensor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it'd be nice. That game was fun.
I liked the first Golden Sun a lot, so I'm excited to go back.
I'm
and see
not a fan, but
really?
No, I was never into
default.
So I was never into Golden Sun.
So I loved it too, but I tried to play it about 3 years after I beat it originally, and it's just a book.
Yeah, you have a Mega Man Battle Network. The first 2 were really good before it tapered off.
WarioWare Twisted.
Oh, that would be perfect with the gamepad.
Yeah, you had a good
Wii U
point for that
gamepad.
one. And the 3DS has the same thing. So.
Yeah, accelerometer built in.
See, I would love to see Ruby and Sapphire come back, the Pokemon games, but we're never going to get that. Like, why don't we get Virtual Console Pokemon games?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, because they're just selling the new ones.
It's funny how all our expectations are really low for this. It's
Yeah.
almost like we're trained.
Their lineup is very impressive.
Yeah.
It's weird. The one game I really want, it's not even a GBA game, is I want Metal Gear Ghost Babel.
Oh, yeah, that was a Game
For
Boy Color
Game Boy
game.
Color,
That was really good. It's funny because on the box it just says Metal Gear Solid. No mention of Ghost Babel anywhere. But anyway, I agree with you.
Yeah, the GBA was a weird era because we got a lot of these awesome games that we're talking about, but we also got a lot of really bad third-party games, tons. And there were weird things, like it would be like, there'd be a popular console game and they would try to make it like there was
Resident
a lot
Evil
of
Gaiden.
and there was a lot of really weird like there's a Duke Nukem, there's like a couple, there's Doom you can get on the GBA, and
GBA was like king of the isometric. Like, we're gonna take this console game and do some weird isometric shit and put it there.
Tony Hawk.
And
Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk is the one exception to that.
Yeah, Tony Hawk was really good.
Was awesome.
It was really good.
Vicarious Visions, I think that
and they killed it. That was
Yeah.
such a good game, and I feel like a lot of the other companies were like, "Oh, that was a great launch game. We should all do that," and then it just didn't work.
Do you remember? I mean, more first-person shooters came out for the GBA than the DS, the 3DS, and the Wii U combined. That is not a lot. I'm not.
X versus
Yeah. I mean, there was like Duke Nukem, Doom, Wolfenstein. All these games came out, and you're playing them without like joysticks or anything like that, and you had 2 shoulder buttons.
And
like,
2 buttons.
2 buttons.
Yeah.
2 buttons.
2 buttons.
One was like switch weapons, the other one was shoot, hopefully.
My last recommendation for Wii U GBA is Wario Land 4. Excuse me. Just because that was also one of the best platformers of all time, in my opinion, and also a huge dropped ball by Nintendo because every Wario Land game since, I think, has been outsourced.
Wasn't there just one?
Well, they had any other Wario game, so they had like a Wario. Didn't they have a Wario 64 game? They had a.
No, that never 64.
Oh, that never came out.
They had like Wario.
I know. I'm
Loves
thinking
Money,
of Shake It.
Yeah.
Wario Land Shake It.
Yeah.
Wario's paternity test.
I don't know about that.
Wario's and the Lamb.
I know what you did with your hand there, Jose.
Yeah,
I
you
was
were about to
thinking
shake it again.
I'm glad this is an audio podcast to some.
Well, some people saw it on video.